Hi everybody, so we're back with another vlog for you. It's myself, Fox, and this is...
Owl.
So we're here today to talk about everyday transphobia.
Yeah. So we came to this topic because we witnessed something just recently, this week actually. We were just out and about, and there was somebody talking about trans people, and they were talking about a very specific person that's been in the media a lot, and they clearly didn't like that person, which is I mean, you don't have to like every trans person there is.
This is true.
But the way that they were speaking about this person was also very disrespectful towards their gender identity, because they were, first of all, they were misgendering them. They said something like she, he, whatever, and sort of didn't really seem to respect their pronouns a lot. And then they also made like sort of a joke. It was supposed to be a joke, but it was just like this dirty dig at this person's gender identity. And it basically, the joke implied that all trans women are just really men, and they're just pretending to be women.
That's pretty problematic, isn't it? And it's pretty insulting as well when it's not like we were wanting to have this type of conversation, it was something that we overheard and it just offended our ears. You would definitely classify that as everyday transphobia.
Yeah, it's just like these small things that you hear all the time that you, as you said, you don't necessarily want to be in that conversation, but somebody says something, or...
And then all of a sudden you're thrown into it and you're like, oh, you know, from what they've said about this one person, it actually means that they don't respect all trans people. And you know, why should there be a difference actually? You know, why should people, because I've heard this before, like with I was having a taxi ride, I think, at the beginning of my transition, and it was at a point where I was kind of quite happy to talk to anyone about being trans. And I think I mentioned to the taxi driver about being trans, and he was like, oh well, you know, you seem to really be, you know, looking good and stuff. He said, you know, the people I can't stand is, you know, and then you know, proceeded to tell me about how much hatred he had for visibly trans women, you know, women that kind of can't help the way that their bone structure is, and are just literally just trying to get on with life. I suppose it's almost like the trope or the stereotype of the trans woman, like when you think about a trans woman. Yeah. I know that that's changing now as well, and I think our reference point for trans people is ever expanding, but there's still that really negative connotation, and I just don't understand why people can't see that all trans people are dealing with gender issues, and gender expression is a human right. You know, we have every right to express ourselves how we want to, and yet there's so many restrictions in this society that we live in based on our appearance.
And I think appearance is like a vital role in how people accept trans people, because if you fit their stereotype of what you're supposed to look like, then they will respect you more and they will listen to you more. But if you, for example, don't fit the stereotype of what a woman should look like, whatever that is, then people don't respect you, or they, as the taxi driver was like, I can't stand those people. And it's because those people are just fucking up their whole idea that everybody has to look a certain way.
Exactly. And how could this taxi driver not see the connection between insulting people in my community and me? You know, why would I want to separate myself from that?
And it's often you hear these things.
Sorry, I just found my hat.
You often hear this thing from like from people you know as well. It's like these microaggressions, these small things people say as well. When people are like, oh, you don't look trans, or oh, I didn't realize that you weren't born a man, or stuff like this.
That's a tricky one, isn't it? You don't look trans, because I know that people often use that as a form of flattery. And yet it's very unflattering to hear that. It's very insulting in some ways.
Somebody actually once said to me that I had like a lecture for someone. It was like this political party or whatever, and I had a lecture about trans issues, and it was like after the lecture where I went over all of the basic things. And this person wanted to compliment me, so they proceeded like with a compliment and were then gonna ask a question.
Okay.
And their compliment was, well, you are a very convincing woman.
Yikes. Oh, convincing, like you're trying to deceive the person.
Yeah, like I'm trying to be a woman so that I can go into like women all spaces and spy or something. I don't know, it's just like, and aside from the fact that I don't really identify as a woman either.
That's also doubly insulting, I guess, too.
And it was just, but at that time I wasn't maybe very clear about that, so maybe he just assumed, which is what people usually do. But
Was it like a language issue? You know, sometimes things are lost in translation.
No, it was all in Icelandic and my own language, and he was raised in Iceland and spoke Icelandic fluently, so there
Okay.
was no language barrier whatsoever. And then he proceeded asking me if this was my female voice that I was
Ooh,
using.
What, as opposed to?
I don't know. And I was just like, yeah, sometimes I like to pop out my man voice and just so that people will listen to me, but it's like...
I mean, people shouldn't be afraid to speak, and people shouldn't be afraid to kind of, you know, to have involvement with trans people. But I think that when things happen, like we say about everyday transphobia, when stuff like this happens day in, day out, it just gets really, really grating. And it might be a minor thing, such a small thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel sometimes that you want to educate people who say stuff like that, or how do you approach that?
Most of the time I'm in the role of an educator mostly. When I'm talking about trans users, I'm usually doing lectures or whatever, and that's when I use the opportunity to educate them. But sometimes, like when I'm just walking outside and I hear a conversation like I heard before, it was just like, I wanted to go there and be like, listen, that's not cool, but it's just like, I don't want to have to feel that obligation that I constantly have to educate people. People have to be able to take responsibility for themselves. So when you say that something they said was transphobic, they shouldn't beg you of an explanation sometimes. You just like...
Yeah.
But I usually take the time to explain. But that's just a personal choice. There's a lot of people who don't want to do that. But that's usually what I do. Sometimes I make jokes about it when I'm really frustrated or something. I just take the piss out of the person.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's just so tiring because it's always the same things again and again. And I think that's because this is what people hear in the media. They hear all of these wrong phrasings, born in the wrong body, became a man, became a woman, all of these things that a lot of trans people feel really uncomfortable with.
Yeah. And you know, I think the media has a massive responsibility, and they're not always stepping up to the plate. I mean, we've seen a lot more positive media over the years because of our involvement with the media, by taking part or helping people with scripts or story writing, or you know, so that they can actually use respectful language. But I mean, gosh, we were having this conversation the other day about films, and we both went to go see the Ab Fab film together, and both of us separately have enjoyed Ab Fab for like so many years, and I don't want to spoil the plot or anything, so we're not going to do that. But with the Ab Fab film, for example, there are about 3 or 4 different trans jokes, some of which I felt were just completely unnecessary and almost
it was just degrading in
it was
a way.
degrading and not authentic. And you know, if for example, if they'd had a trans person just consulting on that script, they could have helped to make that informative and funny at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to laugh at ourselves. I think, you know, we should all be able to do that, and God knows we always make jokes about ourselves and situations, and there's a difference, you know. And I think when we become the butt of a joke in a film, you know, especially Ab Fab, like I kind of lost a bit of respect after that, and I felt a little bit angry. Like I thought about it for quite a while afterwards, and I thought we're gonna have to do a big review on this, and you know, I still would like to do like kind of an analysis of the film, like specifically why it was so insulting. But again, we see this all over the shop, like Ace Ventura. This is a film that has a trans joke in it. I think the Hangover 2. They had it's always the same joke. It's always like somebody sees a fit girl and she's so hot and beautiful, and then they sleep with her, and then oh my god, it's a man, and like, is it really a man? No, it's not a man. It's a trans person. It's a human being. Somebody, and I don't want to use the term born in the wrong body, but someone who is making their body work for them, you know, and they're dealing with what they've got and going through all that kind of stuff, and then they have this encounter with somebody, and then it just gets thrown in their face, and they get reduced to less than human.
And this is what you see. Like, if you see this constantly, this is the portrayal of trans people, and you start to think about how disgusting am I if this is how people react to me. Why would anybody want to be with me?
Exactly, right? And the in-betweeners did that as well. Not cool.
And I just wanted to go back to the Ab Fab movie, because there was, it just seemed so out of place, all these jokes. And it was just like, the movie was funny, it was the same Ab Fab humor, Patsy, and they were like really funny. And then
Loving it.
Yeah, and then there's just like these really
Weird.
crappy trans jokes that make no sense to the plot. They add nothing to the movie.
Yeah.
And they're not even funny. It's like you can make funny trans jokes.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Not that hard.
But these were just not funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just really weird and really left field. Like, it didn't really add to the film at all. And yeah, I just thought it was very cheap, but also misguided. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it almost confused the audience. You know, I felt confused and I was trans, you know,
Yeah.
so...
And there's a person in that movie that is trans, and they are making these awful jokes instead, like just going with the flow. And it's like, no trans person would stand for this.
Yeah.
It's just like,
God, if only one of us had been a consult on the script, or any trans person for that matter, and they wouldn't have let this stuff slide, you know, they would have, you know, given their advice, and things would have been changed, so that it was actually positive and funny at the same
You've actually
time.
made it funny. Like,
Yeah.
That's the point of this movie, to be funny. It's just
Yeah,
like they
failed.
We have good trans jokes. Just come to us and we'll tell you.
That's right. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's also experienced micro aggressions, everyday transphobia, that sort of thing. I think often it's tricky because people report, you know, verbal abuse in the street, or verbal abuse all around, and physical abuse, and that has to be reported, obviously, and it's really important that it does. But often with this kind of stuff, people just let it slide, and we just kind of let people get on with it. And I'm not saying that people should be put in prison for this sort of thing, but I'm saying this is an indication of where we're at in society still, and until this kind of stuff is eradicated, then you know, we still have a problem.
And it's just so tiring. It's because it's all the time. It's like frequent questions, frequent things, people saying small jokes, and people are just like, "Oh, I just have to calm down. I'm just saying a joke." But it's not a joke. It's not even funny.
Exactly.
It's like, if you want to make a joke, actually make it funny.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's so many ways to make funny jokes, and offending people who are going through really rough things and having really rough times and not being able to be themselves. Making fun of that just isn't funny. It just isn't cool. It isn't funny. Nobody laughs. No trans person laughs at that shit.
No.
It's just like...
No, certainly not. Or any trans ally for that matter.
No,
So
it's just like...
yeah, not cool. So yeah, we're monitoring you, media. That's the end of our rant. I don't know if anybody has experienced everyday transphobia as such. If you have, I'm very sorry for your experiences, but we'd love to hear about what those experiences are.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back again very soon. Al, you're off to Finland?
Yes, I'm going to Helsinki for some activist stuff, I guess.
Well, international trans superstar.
Yay.
And it's Trans Pride this weekend, so I'm really looking forward to all that cool stuff, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye bye.